So John Battelle is executive chairman of Federated Media, longtime follower of all things technological. And you had some really strong, it'll be brief words in your blog today about this.
Yeah. I've been saying this actually for some time because people have been talking about this being another bubble ever since the secondary valuations of these companies have gotten very high, like Facebook at 50 to 75 billion. As you pointed out earlier, the last bubble that we were in around technology was entirely speculative, and it wasn't based on any fundamentals. I see a lot of fundamentally sound companies, and these are not companies that are just about having a .com name. These are global businesses, LinkedIn is one of them, that have true impact on the economy as opposed to a part of the economy known as the .com world.
It is interesting that there was a part of technology back 10 or 12 years ago that was about supplying the world of technology with technology.
Right.
It wasn't about, we talk about the show as innovation, technology, and the future of business. It wasn't about how it impacted the future of business.
Right.
Now that seems to be the case.
Absolutely. I mean, just look at LinkedIn. You've got a company that not only provides professional services and has 2 or 3 very strong revenue lines, advertising, recruitment, professional services, it also has a wealth of data about how people are doing their work and who they're doing it for and what their history of work is. That data alone is extremely valuable, and I think the market understands that.
John, it's John Ehrlichman. There's no doubt there's some established companies that are getting this opportunity to go public, but the concern obviously way back when was concept IPOs. That's how you described them. Couldn't there be some concept IPOs that can get through the gate if there's successful IPOs like the LinkedIn one?
Well, there's no question that it's possible for any number of companies that probably aren't worthy to, I wouldn't even say slip through, they might be celebrated. I mean, we are in a moment when there is a hunger for the kind of company that hasn't really been able to go public for the last 3 or 4 years. So sure, it could be possible that some companies that are not as worthy as, say, a Facebook or a LinkedIn may go public, but I think that they will be called out probably by shows like this.
And what will be that difference? Because there's hype. If it's a big company or a small company, there's always some hype. So what are the things that investors have to think about if some of those other names slip through?
I mean, it's business fundamentals, isn't it? It's top line, it's growth, it's investment, it's management team, it's prospects, it's partnerships. Those kinds of things are pretty easy to judge once you can see, a prospectus.
So, John, let me ask you about this. When you look at LinkedIn, how do you categorize this business, and what do you see as its potential?
Well, I think what it's managed to do is redefine how people relate to the concept of work and their professional network, right? Well, in other words, I now have a place to go to check somebody out before I go on a job interview. I have a place to go to check someone out before they come for a job interview. I have the ability to, if I need to establish a partnership, use not just my network, but the network of my friends to make my life, more valuable. That is something that I think has inherent value.
What does it replace? Technology usually solves a problem and also can kind of replace something else. What business do you see this replacing? What series of businesses?
Well, I think it's already begun to replace, as you will, the business of professional recruiting. It's certainly
well, because it's funny, because it's one of the principal sources of income for this company.
Yes.
Is the business of professional recruiting.
Right. Now, let's not forget, everyone gets very excited about Facebook because they have so much personal information about people, right? And the ability to put an ad right in front of a person at the right time. That's a business-to-consumer business, a very large advertising business, right? Now, LinkedIn has that same information, but in a professional context. The business-to-business publishing world is huge. And it's tens and tens of billions of dollars. And so that business is just beginning to be exploited at LinkedIn as well.
John, it's John Ehrlichman again. Over the last couple of days, have you heard about anybody else who might be gearing up to go public, especially after the success of LinkedIn?
Well, I think there are a lot of candidates, and they're well known, whether it's Zynga or Groupon or Facebook. I think that they are all sort of in line, like jets lining up to land at JFK, so to speak. I think the gates are certainly open now. There's clearly demand because we saw that, twofold jump in price. And I think people are ready now to take what money they might have to risk and risk it on betting on the future of these internet companies, because I think they do have one, and it's a strong one.
So what do you think the next one's going to be? Do you have any insight there?
I don't have insight on Yandex, which is a Russian search company, right? That's probably seen as the next one to go public. It's not a U.S. company, but it is a bet on a big market in a big market.
And what do you think about them?
Well, I don't really have a view on Yandex, to be honest with you. They clearly have almost a monopoly in that space. And anytime you have that kind of distribution in an important emerging market like Russia, it's a good bet. On the other hand, it's sort of the Wild West still there. So I'd be a bit careful, just like with Baidu, which serves at the behest of the Chinese government.
I wonder, going back to LinkedIn a little bit, it's interesting to me how this company's been at death's door a few times. I mean, LinkedIn is not a new business. It's, I was patting them on the back for having $200 million in revenues. Well, they're 10 years old, and they've nearly gone out of business at least twice. They've had massive rounds of layoffs. They've had a number of CEOs. What do you think it is they turned around? You know Reid Hoffman, and he's been there throughout.
Reid's been there the whole time. He's been a real rock. And when he brought in Jeff, I think that really signaled to the markets that they were ready to go. When Jeff took that job, it was clear he's an operator. He also has a lot of vision. It took Reid a good year to say, okay, Jeff, you can really have the reins.
Jeff Weiner.
Jeff Weiner, this is the current CEO.
Jeff was at Yahoo previously.
He was a very senior manager at Yahoo,
And prior to that at Ask Jeeves.
Exactly. So he's got a lot of experiences in operating these kinds of businesses. I think they figured out that formula around recruitment, and they started to figure out the formula around advertising. Both those, as you can see in the numbers you showed, those numbers are going up very, very nicely, and it's clearly because advertisers and recruiters are seeing results.
Well, and in my interview earlier this week with Jeff Weiner, he said, we're just starting what we're doing. You saw particularly the hiring results within the company really accelerate and get them to both to the profitability that they're going to abandon, and also the revenue ramp they're on.
Yeah. Well, it's clear that he's made that point, and I think it was wise of him. I'm going to continue to invest. And I think that's what people who are investing in the stock are thinking too. They're in a position to take advantage of a very big market. They're only at the starting place. And that's really what a public market should be able to do. Look, we have a track record. We've proven that we are a market leader. Now give us capital so we can really go accelerate. That's what the public markets are about.
Now, Reid Hoffman's also out there at Greylock investing in other companies. I mean, have you heard from him since the IPO? Do you have any idea
we exchanged email in which I congratulated him, and he said, well, the work ahead is really in the next 3 to 5 years.
He didn't say I'm buying lunch?
No.
That's a shame. Well,
I might ask him next time.
I think you should do that. Maybe at your summit you can do just that.
Yeah, well, he'll be at the Web2 Summit, actually, which is one of our conferences that we're doing, and that'll be in the fall. And I'll be interviewing him, so we can ask him how it's going then.
It'll be interesting to see those guys talk at the summit this year, because that's sort of the annual event where you take the temperature, and the temperature in the room is going to be a little different this time.
I think the temperature, we are tracking well ahead of last year, let's just put it that way, in terms of people signing up to come. And it's going to be a very, very interesting conversation.
John Battelle, Executive Chairman of Federated Media, thanks for joining us. John?